If you're a parent who has ever been on Pinterest and looked for activities for your child, you've probably seen at least a dozen different recipes for modeling clay, or sensory dough as it's sometimes called. Most of the recipes are different variations of the mixture of flour, water, and salt dough I remember using to make Christmas ornaments as a kid. So one morning this week I was searching for a recipe for my son, and I spent a good 20 minutes making this dough, mixing in different colors and getting just the right proportions of flour to water to coconut oil so it wouldn't stick to my hands or leave a greasy mess. Only to have my son pick it up, drop it on the cat, and decide he was done with it. 20 minutes of making it, only to have it covered in cat hair after a minute or so. After all that, I threw away the dough I had made and added today's topic to my shopping list, partially because it was easier to keep in the house and more convenient. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind Play-Doh. But first, a quick message. You may have noticed the lack of episode last week. I talked a bit about the weight of the book release, and I had a feeling I would be overwhelmed that week. So thank you so much for your patience, and also to everyone who has posted pictures of themselves with the book. I've been trying to collect as many as I can, so definitely tag me on social media if you got a copy. It makes me so happy to see my book in your hands, especially going to parts of the world that I've never gotten to travel. So I wanted to say thank you so much for supporting me, this podcast, and the story behind book. By the way, if you haven't gotten your copy yet, the Monday American podcast is doing a giveaway for the book, and I'll be coordinating with the Podcast Brunch Club for them to be doing a giveaway soon as well. And by the way, the giveaway for those who showed me their pre-order receipts is coming. I'm actually waiting for part of the prize to get to my house so I can go live in the Story Behind discussion group and do the giveaway. So thank you to everyone for making it such a successful launch. The story behind Play-Doh actually starts with wallpaper. Back in the 1930s, many homes were heated with coal, which left soot and grime on the wallpaper. Because there wasn't vinyl wallpaper at the time, you couldn't just run a wet cloth over it to clean it. The grocery store chain, Kroger, was getting demands from customers for a way to easily clean their wallpaper, but there was nothing on the market that could effectively clean the paper and pasted walls. Kroger brought their concern to Cincinnati, Ohio-based soap company, Cuddle. Having just sold off pieces of the business enough to keep it afloat, company inheritor Cleo McVicker jumped at the chance to produce a ready-made wallpaper cleaner, even though no one in the company had specialized in that before. If McVicker failed to produce the amount Kroger wanted, the financial repercussions would put the entire company out of business. Luckily, Cleo's brother Noah came up with a formula of simple water, salt, flour, and boric acid with some mineral oil, which could be molded and rubbed up and down wallpapers to gather the soot and clean it from the wallpaper without any damage or harsh chemicals. The new product flew off the shelves, and Cuddle Wallpaper Cleaner was a hit for about 20 years. After World War II, coal furnaces were replaced by cleaner forms of heat, like wood or oil in homes. On top of that, vinyl wallpaper had finally been invented and been used more. Cuddle Wallpaper Cleaner wasn't in as high demand, and the company looked like it was headed for trouble. On top of that, Cleo McVicker had died. Irma, Cleo's widow, inherited the company, and she hired her son Joe and her son-in-law Bill Rodenbog to run it. On top of the failing need for a wallpaper cleaner, Joe was soon diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease and given the life expectancy of age 25. Thanks to experimental radiation, he lived much longer than that. The family was tasked with figuring out the best course of action for the company. Joe's sister-in-law, Kay Zufall, happened to run a nursery school and was looking through a magazine for ideas for activities for her students for the upcoming holiday season. One idea listed in the magazine was using wallpaper cleaner to make ornaments. She saw her students having a great time molding and using cookie cutters to shape the cleaner, which was a better alternative to clay, which left stains. And she knew she had found a way to help her brother-in-law's failing business. When Joe flew out to see her and her Cuddle Wallpaper Cleaner ornaments, he was convinced he could turn the company around. He realized the wallpaper cleaner, which sold for 34 cents per can, could easily be sold for a much higher profit if it was marketed as a toy. Others had also used the wallpaper cleaner as modeling clay, including a wallpaper cleaner who at one point came to the Cuddle office to show them his little animal sculptures he had made with it. The idea was right under their noses all along. They removed the detergent from the cleaner and gave it an almond scent, but otherwise keeping the original recipe. But what would they call it? Let's rewind to the beginning of the episode and see what this episode could have been titled if Joe kept the original name he was going to go with. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind Rainbow Modeling Compound. Yeah, luckily Kay talked her brother-in-law out of that name. Neither could remember who actually came up with the name Play-Doh. Originally, they didn't think it would sell well to individuals, so they made giant containers of Play-Doh with the idea that they would sell to schools. At the time, it only came in 3 colors, red, yellow, and blue. They formed a subsidiary of Cuddle Products named Rainbow Crafts. Once Play-Doh became a hit at schools and education conferences, they began to make smaller versions that sold in department stores. Once it was featured prominently on the popular children's television show Captain Kangaroo 3 times a week, it quickly became the legendary toy we know now. Hasbro bought the company in 1991 and has since kept producing Play-Doh. But here's something you may not know about it. The scent of Play-Doh is trademarked. Hasbro filed for a trademark on the scent in 2017, and it's described as, quote, sweet, slightly musky, vanilla-like fragrance with slight undertones of cherry and the natural smell of salted wheat-based dough. That may sound like a mouthful, but really, if you've ever played with this stuff, you already know it's hard to forget that scent. One more thing about Play-Doh. Back when fingerprint ID was in its infancy, Play-Doh was found to be an effective way of fooling the scanners. But technology has used this to help make fingerprint detection much more accurate, and a Play-Doh replica of your thumbprint touched to your phone sensor most likely won't register. But hey, if you happen to try it and activate Siri, you can always tell her, subscribe to the Story Behind podcast, and you'll automatically be able to get new episodes in Apple Podcasts as soon as they come out. Sorry, shameless plug. Information for this episode was sourced from Today I Found Out, Business Insider, Mental Floss, and more links which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. This week on Trivia Tuesday in the Story Behind discussion group on Facebook, Heather posted she was intrigued by the story behind ice cream floats, or spiders as they're called in New Zealand, where she's from. She put a link to the Wikipedia page, and I love the origin stories of it too, but I always liked that ice cream sundaes came from the religious laws stating people couldn't have soda on Sundays. So ice cream sundaes were basically ice cream sodas without the soda water, just the syrup on top. Glenn posted, kangaroos can't walk backwards, and male kangaroos flex their biceps to attract mates. Adam posted, the spiked tail on the Stegosaurus is called a thagomizer. It didn't have an official name until the cartoonist Gary Larson did a Far Side comic about it, and the scientific community just accepted the name Larson had given the spike. Jeffrey posted, it wouldn't be a surprise that Anthony Quinn was the first Mexican-born person to win an acting Oscar, doing so twice for Viva Zapata in 1952 and Lust for Life in 1956. However, it would surprise you that the second Mexican-born person and first Mexican-born actress to do so is none other than Lupita Nyong'o for her roles in 12 Years a Slave. Her parents were both Kenyan, but were working in Mexico City when she was born. And Daniel learned that John Wayne went into Hollywood show business all because of a bad body surfing accident and loss of a football scholarship. If you'd like to talk about trivia you pick up during the week and have it read on the show, join the Story Behind discussion group on Facebook. This episode was brought to you by the Story Behind executive producers, who support the show through the Patreon page at patreon.com/thestorybehind. Thanks for listening.